Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Vishnupada Paramahansa Parivadikacharya Ashtottara Shri Srimad Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Vishnupada Paramahansa Parivadikacharya Ashtottara Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavindra Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the Assembly devotees. All glories to the Assembly devotees. All glories to the Assembly devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. That's good, Glenn. Come sit down. There's few enough of us here. I don't know, I guess Jamal is cooking or something. Narayanam namaskritya Narang chaiva narottamam Devim saraswatim vyasam Tato jayamudiriye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the Goddess of Learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta prayesha badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance and classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, give me a second here. On this 23rd day of October, 2019 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are in Canto 4, The Creation of the Fourth Order, Chapter 20, Lord Vishnu's Appearance in the Sacrificial Arena of Maharaj Prithu, text number 8. Yahevam santam atmanam atmastam veda purushaha najyate pakatistopi tadgunai samayistitaha yahevam santam atmanam atmastam veda purushaha najyate pakatistopi tadgunai samayistitaha yahevam santam atmanam atmastam veda purushaha najyate pakatistopi tadgunai samayistitaha yahevam santam atmanam atmastam veda purushaha najyate pakatistopi tadgunai samayistitaha yahevam santam atmanam atmastam veda purushaha najyate pakatistopi tadgunai samayistitaha yahevam santam atmanam atmastam veda purushaha najyate pakatistopi tadgunai samayistitaha yahevam santam atmanam atmastam veda purushaha najyate pakatistopi tadgunai samayistitaha yahevam santam atmanam atmastam veda purushaha najyate pakatistopi tadgunai samayistitaha. Do you want to follow it on your phone? The phone? It's not. Maybe you can help her. She knows it. Yeah, we're at 428. Okay, reading the synonyms. Yaha, anyone who. Evam, thus. Santam, existing. Atmanam, the individual Atma, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Paramatma. Atmastam, situated within his body. Veda, knows. Purushaha, person. Na, never. Ajyate, is affected. Prakati, in material nature. Staha, situated. Api, although. Tadgunai, by the material modes of nature. Saha, such a person. Mai, in me. Stitaha, situated. Translation. Although within the material nature, one who is thus situated in full knowledge of the Paramatma and Atma is never affected by the modes of material nature, for he is always situated in my transcendental loving service. Purport. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears in this material world, he is not affected by the modes of material nature. Similarly, those who are always connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead even though they may be within the material body or the material world, are not affected by the material qualities. That is explained very nicely in the Bhagavad Gita 14:26. Also you say, Mam chayo vabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samati jaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who is unflinchingly engaged in the devotional service of the Lord surpasses the material qualities and attains Brahman realization. In this connection, Srila Rupa Goswami says that if a person is always engaged in the service of the Lord with his body, words, and mind, he is to be considered liberated, although living in the material world. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances to him and to all members of Sri Parampara, the disciplic succession. So, now, Vishnu has now appeared in this sacrificial arena. There was a whole pastime there where Prithu Maharaj wanted to perform 100 horse sacrifices for the benefit of the earth. When he got to 99, as you may remember, Indra became envious. He became desperate because he thought that Prithu wanted to take over his position. Because by performing all of these austerities, become purified, become qualified to get a higher position. Prithu was already a Shakti-based avatar. He didn't have to covet any kind of material position. But Indra, as is his wont, as his usual practice, he becomes controlled or becomes affected by the mode of passion. Envy and jealousy and all of these things, this is a result of the mode of passion. He's so attached to his position. So he stole the horse, disguised as a sannyasi. And this enraged Prithu's son, you may remember. He went after Indra. But he was stopped, and Prithu himself was stopped by Brahma, who said, 99 sacrifices is fine. You don't need to wonder about the 100th sacrifice. So he pacified him, and then Vishnu himself came in and started to praise him, actually, and preached to him. So the previous verse was very interesting. In fact, I looked it up because there's a discrepancy. Those who read the Pocket Vedas, the Pocket Vedas has never been updated. And so way back in 2013, I had forgotten. We had a correction for this verse. It had read, the individual soul is one, pure, self-effulgent, and though he is devoid of material qualities, the reservoir of all good qualities, he is all pervasive. So he had all of these pronouns in there, and they were all capitalized. But the original thing said the individual soul. So that didn't work. So I wrote to Jayawada Maharaj and we adjusted it to what you have now. It's still a little bit strange, but it's explained in the purport that there's this dual meanings going on. The Atma can mean, as we've found in this verse, the verse we read today, it can mean the individual soul or the super soul. It can actually also mean the body, the mind, the intelligence. When Lord Chaitanya, he explained the Atmarama verse. Who's familiar with the Atmarama verse? Balaram. Okay, Atmarama verse is a very important verse in the Bhagavatam, the first canto. It is explaining, describing how Shukadeva Goswami, who was already fixed completely in transcendence, in realization of Brahman, he had absolutely no attraction for the material world. He's known as Nirgranta, means without knots. No knots in the heart that tie you to this world. In fact, he took sannyas as soon as he was born. Came out of the womb and off he went. He didn't want to come out at all. He stayed in, how long? 12 years? 12 years he maintained by his yogic powers in the womb. You can imagine the mother. So finally Krishna came all the way from Dwarka to preach to him in the womb and tell them that it's okay, you won't get entangled, you just come out. And he came out, took off. Described in the first canto, Vyasadeva said, I want to teach you the Bhagavatam. He's running after him, but only the trees echo the desperate father. Anyway, so how to attract Shukadev to come back out of the forest? He's wandering around in secluded places. So Vyasadeva, this is not told in the Bhagavatam, but I heard it from another Purana. He sent out some of his disciples to go and chant some of the sweet verses from the Bhagavatam and see if they could attract the mind of Shukadev. So one of the ones he chanted was this Barha Pidam verse, which is describing Krishna entering the forest at the beginning of the 21st chapter, which is of the 10th canto. That's a Venu Gita. Barha Pidam Natavadavapu Karnayo Karnikaram. The real sweet verse. Is describing how he has his peacock plume and he's dressed just like a dancing actor, like, very graceful and everything in place, And he's blowing on his flute, and he's with the cowherd boys and the cows, and the gopis are remembering him in this way, beautifying the forest with his lotus footprints. So this verse and others, I think he also did the one, Aho Bakiyam. Does anyone remember that? This is Uddhava's verse describing the special mercy of Krishna, or who could be as compassionate as Krishna? How wonderful it is that even though Putana came to Krishna with the inimical purpose of killing him, murdering him with their poisoned breast, she was in the aspect of a mother. And she was so beautiful that all the ladies were just dazzled and just let her come right into the room there where Krishna was lying, as a baby. And she had some intimation that this was a dangerous situation. She describes how she saw him as a sword in a delicate sheath or something like that. So she suckled Krishna and she tried to kill him with the poison. Of course, he killed her. But she got a position in the spiritual world as a nurse, as Yashoda's right hand assistant. So who could be more merciful than that? If someone just becomes angry at us, that's the last person we're going to show any kind of mercy to, right? They become our arch enemy. But for Krishna, he forgot all about that, purified her by sucking out the milk and the poison, and gave her a benediction. So these verses were so attractive that they attracted Shukadev to come back and hear Bhagavatam. So this Atmarama verse describes that. Atmaramascha muniyo nirgranta apyurukrame kovancha hoitikim bhaktim ittam bhuta guno hari. So an Atmarama is someone who is completely self-satisfied in the spiritual platform. Atma Arama, enjoying the spirit. And Nirgranta, without any attachment to the material world. Although the Atmaramas, who are not offenders, they're not Mayavadis who are blaspheming the Lord and saying that, he has no form. They simply prefer the Brahman. The Kumaras were like that also. They were merged in Brahman, they were enjoying Brahmananda. And then they became devotees when they actually went to Vaikuntha. They didn't quite get in, that's a whole other pastime I won't tell. But the Lord came to the gate, and when they smelled the fragrance of his lotus feet, they got a transformation and they became bhaktas at that point. And then they started the whole sampradaya. And they were so remorseful that they had cursed Jai and Vijay because they stopped them from coming in. The fact that they cursed it was a sign that they weren't pure yet. Because a devotee would never curse anybody like that, especially other devotees. So they lamented like anything, but Krishna said, no, it's all right, it's my plan, because Jai and Vijay then came down and became Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, and the whole thing happened like that. So they also are Atmaramas. Atmaramas Chamuniyo, the wise devotees, or wise souls who are Atmaramas, self-satisfied in their selves with the Atma realization. Nirgunta, although they are self-satisfied, although they have no attraction for this world, still, when they hear the wonderful qualities of Arukrama, which means he who performs wonderful activities, Korvancha hoitikim bhaktim ittam bhuta guno hari, they practice ahoituki bhakti, selfless service, loving service, not desiring anything except Krishna's favor. Because of these wonderful qualities of Hari. So this verse is very important. Lord Chaitanya, when he went to Sanatana Goswami, he explained it like 62 times, because every word has so many different meanings. It's like Atma. I mean, it has 9 different meanings. I forget all of them, but it means individual soul, super soul, intelligence, mind, body, senses, like that. And so when you combine them all with the different other meanings of the different words, he got 62 different meanings out of this verse. He did similar thing with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, not quite as many. So, the previous verse we were talking about the soul and the super soul, because the word Atma was used there, and Vishwanath Chakravarti interpreted it as the super soul, and Prabhupada, in ordinary parlance, he's reading it as the soul, so he had double meanings there, ekak shuddha, he's pure and so forth. So, having done that, then Prabhupada in the translation here, the word Atma, Atmanam, he defines as the individual soul and the supreme soul, the Paramatma. So that's how we get this in the translation. One who is thus situated in full knowledge, although within the material nature, although he has this full knowledge of the Paramatma and the Atma, is never affected by the modes of material nature. So really you can't understand the Paramatma unless you understand the Atma, the relationship between the two. That's the basic relationship of bhakti. So now, Prabhupada makes this point that we're above the modes of nature. One who is completely fixed in devotion is above the modes of nature. And he quotes this famous verse from the end of the 14th chapter, which is all about the modes of nature. We may recall, I think, Rinjanandana, he ran through the verses preceding this. Arjuna wanted to know what are the qualities of one who's above the modes of nature. What does he do? And how does he achieve that state? So the qualities are basically tulya. You're equipoised. You remember, you see stone and gold as the same. You're equipoised in praise and blame. Samadukha sukham dhiram. If something bad happens to you, you don't freak out. If something good happens to you, you don't freak out in the other way. In other words, you're situated in the mode of pure goodness and unagitated by the circumstances, realizing it's just the modes of nature working. I myself am not being affected, I as the soul. So that's the basic principle. Now there's another verse which I wanted to cite, which is very pertinent here, and that is, what is the actual, this verse describes, what is the divinity of the divine? Prabhupada will quote this one. This is the first canto, chapter 11, text 38. Etad Ishanam Ishasya. Ishana means the divinity, and Ishasya of the personality of Godhead. Here is the divinity of the divine. Etad Ishanam Ishasya Prakriti Stopi Tad Gunai Na Yujyate Sadatmastaya Yata Buddhi Stadashaya. This is the divinity of the personality of Godhead. That's the translation. He is not affected by the qualities of material nature, even though he is in contact with them. And these material natures are within him, sadatma style. He is the master of those. How can he be affected by them? Similarly, the devotee who has taken shelter of the Lord does not become influenced by the material qualities. In other words, why does that work? That when you become unflinching devotee of the Lord, that you transcend the material world, material nature, the modes of nature. Because you're absorbed in thought of Krishna and He's empowering you. He's lifts you up out of the control of these modes of nature. Which is, after all, what's keeping us bound here, birth after birth. It's impossible to overcome them on your own. Daivi yesha gunamayi mamamaya duratjaya. The word duratjaya means difficult to overcome. But the truth is, impossible. Difficult, super difficult. Like you can't do it. But one who surrenders unto me easily crosses beyond them. Because Krishna gives you the blessing. He lifts you up out of those modes of nature. And you take on His qualities. This is a basic principle of life in this world. is that you become like what you absorb your mind in. Even on the animal platform, there's this example of the insect that, these, we call it the bringy insect, but it seems like a spider. Have you ever seen like a spider? Sometimes they capture some in the net, but they don't kill them right away. I personally, I remember one of my darker days as a child, I and my friend thought, let's go capture some moths and throw them into this big spider web and see what happens. Those poor moths, Of course they got stuck in there. They couldn't get out, and then they get wrapped up by the spider. But he didn't eat them right away. They're just there, waiting for later. That's his refrigerator, So anyway, hopefully I atoned for that one by chanting Hare Krishna. But the idea is, what is this moth thinking of? They're thinking of the spider. That's all they're thinking of. Oh, when's he going to come and get me? How can I get out? You're thinking of the spider. So next life you become a spider, because you're absorbed in thought of the spider. This is an example in the Shastra. So similarly, we become like what we think of. Now just imagine when people don't know this science. They think of all kinds of things. Oh, let's go see that scary movie, now they come, and now with all the special effects, they're much scarier than they used to be. And now your mind is absorbed in that, and you're dreaming about that. Suppose you die, you're thinking of some horrible creation. You can imagine what would happen. Where do you go? Into the video game, I mean, it's horrific. But people don't know the science. But devotees, we're supposed to be yogis. We just finished the 6th chapter in the evening class, and it's all about the mind, Udaret Atmanatmanam. The mind is your best friend, but it's also your worst enemy. If you let the mind go to simply think of anything, or you don't have control of it, it controls you, then your future is very dark. So many things you're going to think of, you're going to have so many attachments, so many fears, and all this stuff, So devotees know, I have to control the mind, mind control, not somebody else controlling it, you're controlling it. You really want Krishna to control it. That's the prayer. There's a nice poem like that. There's a song, Krishna Bhavandam Vande, Manmanasamadakalamapa Yinitapapankachamakandande. It compares the mind to a honeybee. Sometimes the mind is going to a honeybee. Who knows what some of the other analogy? The wind, wild horse. That's in the 87th chapter in the Prayers of Personified Vedas. In other words, something you can't control. It's out of control. And so this honeybee is flitting from one flower to another, looking for sweetness. So in this prayer, Rupa Goswami says, Krishna Bhavandam Vande, Krishna, I bow down to you. Please place the bee of my restless mind in the honey of your lotus feet. He's asking, and then the verses say, who am I? Even Brahma, works so hard in meditation, but he can't get a glimpse of your toes of your lotus feet, And who am I to say? But I've heard of your great compassion, so I'm begging you please place the bee of my mind in your lotus feet. In other words, give me the power to control my mind and practice bhakti yoga. That's the prayer. When you're chanting Hare Krishna, what are we praying for? And please engage me in your service. You please engage me in your service. I want to engage in your service, but my senses are out of control, and the mind, who am I? I'm not a big yogi. This is the advantage. This is like the judo. Think, what's the judo? You use somebody punches you, you duck a little bit, and take that momentum and flip them over, right? And that's what I've heard anyway, in practice. In other words, you're using the energy that's already coming at you, and you turn it around and use it for your own purposes. So our great advantage is that we're totally incompetent. We're helpless here in the material energy. The Kali Yuga, here we are, So how do we turn that to good effect? First of all, we recognize it. We're not proud enough, so proud of everything. Oh, we're going to conquer nature. That's illusion. The first understanding is that we need help, right? Isn't that what that Vaisheshika Prabhu said? What does the Hare Krishna mantra mean? It means I need help. From God, Hare Krishna, help me. So the more we can sincerely call on Krishna, to engage us in his service, the more we'll be empowered. He'll give us he cleans it out. What is that? Trinvatam, Sukata, Krishna, Punnishavana Kirtana, Ridyantakstoya Vadrani Vidunoti Suditsata. We're sitting here hearing. Our only responsibility is not easy. Fix the mind on the vibrations of the Bhagavatam class. Fix the mind on those sacred names that we're chanting. To just hear, at least try to hear. That's another prayer. Is that I can't concentrate my mind is crazy, please let me, empower me to hear your holy name. The whole idea is to take that disqualification, our helplessness before the modes of nature, and turn it to our advantage by allowing us to see how absolutely helpless we are and that we need Krishna's help. And that should then inspire us to pray from the bottom of our heart, through the holy name, in so many different ways. So that's the meaning of this verse, that one who have taken shelter of the Lord, who are fixed on him, who are desperately trying to hold on to his lotus feet, then they also transcend the modes of nature. They're not affected by the modes of nature, just as the Lord is. He gives us the power. And this other verse that I quoted, the famous verse, from within, Krishna cleanses away the abhadras, the unwanted things in the heart, which are preventing us from seeing who we are and advancing in devotional service. When he sees that we're sincerely hearing his messages. That's the whole second chapter, first canto, that important passage. So back to our present verse here. Prabhupada quotes this verse, and then he quotes Rupa Goswami. He's not giving the Sanskrit here, but this is a famous verse that Prabhupada would always talk about. And this is like basically the foundation of the Hare Krishna movement. Iha yasya Hare Dase karma namana sagara nikalashrapya bastastu. No. Jivan mukta sa uchite. A jivan mukta means one who's liberated even in this lifetime. Normally, the program is, I'm going to work very hard to become free from material attachments in this life, and then when I leave my body, I'll be liberated. It means I won't have to come back down again. But for devotees, that liberation will take place, even while we're in this body. Because liberation is not the goal. We're looking for love for Krishna. So, in this lifetime, what this verse says, iha. Iha means not here, but it means your activities. Of what? Karmana manasagara. He's covering everything. The karmana means what is called the karmendriyas. Does anyone remember what karmendriyas means? Yeah, the 5 working senses. The senses we do things with. Those are said to be senses in our vocabulary. So what are they? The most important one is the voice. What you say, you speak. You can see how this whole movement is running on spoken word. Really. Prabhupada dictated everything and he spoke. And Krishna spoke. So the voice, the hands, the legs, generative organ, excreting organ, these are 5. And of course we have the famous 5 senses. They're all in the head. The eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, the sense of touch. So, but what we do with those 10 senses, when all of them, Iha yasya Hare Dasya is involved in Hare Dasya, serving Hari. Karmana manasagara. So it includes the mind and the voice, he especially mentions. Nikala, all. Nikala Shripya Bastasu, they're engaged in the serving of Hari. Jivan Mukta Sa Uchate, then we're liberated. You're liberated even in this world. What does it mean to be liberated? It means to have no attachment for this world. And that means also to be free of fear. That's the flip side of attachment. But all of that, so you're equipoised. Read the 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. He does nothing at all. He says, my senses are engaged in this and that and those, but I'm not doing anything, I'm detached. That sense of peace, even in the ups and downs of this world, which are going to come. Dukeshu anudvignamana. Does anyone know what that means? Dukeshu, in misery. Anudvigna. Udvigna means disturbance. Prahlad uses this word the first verse he speaks to his father. In the material world, sada samudvignadiyam. The intelligence, the mind is always disturbed. What will happen? Just like I've been quoting this verse from Prahlad. Yasmat priyapriya yoga sa yoga janma shokagnina sakala yona shuddayamana. That everyone's kind of burning in a fire of lamentation, shoka, in this world. Because of two things. That which is dear to us is ripped away, and that which is abominable to us is forced upon us. When you think about it, those are the two things that really cause misery in this world. But what about, okay, I'm all right now, I've got everything together, there's nothing abominable coming, but what if this happens, what if that happens? That's anxiety. And it becomes a regular state of mind. You know, people, it's like a mental illness, right? You know, too much anxiety, and it's very destructive, you know, physically, mentally, emotionally, everything. Just because something might happen. So that's the whole insurance industry is built on that, your fear. They try to frighten you, then they try to sell you something if something happens bad, it'll be okay, you'll have some money. So that's material world. So now, then there's this other part that's mentioned, Brahmabhuta Prasanna, Nashochati and the Kankshati, right? So there's hankering and lamentation. Hankering and lamentation. Which are caused by being separated from things that are dear and being forced to encounter things that are horrible. So the same thing is there. This lamentation, you've lost something that is dear to you, or something horrible has been forced upon you. These two different elements are going on. So where is there any peace? You see how wonderful, or what a blessing it is to get this sense of mukti and kind of be above it all. All right, this happened to me. Life goes on. I'm still chanting Hare Krishna. You know, this is what material life is. Krishna says dukkhalayam. Did I think it was going to be dukkhalayam for everyone else, but not for me? Dukkhalayam means an ocean of misery. These are going to happen to all of us. These things, you know. So how you're able to tolerate and rise above them by being fixed at Krishna's lotus feet, that's a test of our Krishna consciousness. That's one of the side benefits. So this Iha Yasya Hare Dase is similar to this Mamshyo Vibhacharani. That's why Prabhupada quotes it. Is that it's a practical inducement to strive for Krishna consciousness. As I often say, we have two things that should be moving us along. To do anything, there has to be a motive, right? If we're going to do something, we're hungry, okay, we cook. You know, I'm hungry, I cook, or I go to the pizza parlor or something. So that's why you're moving there. That's why you're earning money, so you can buy all these necessities. But what is the motive of devotee, of the aspiring devotee? We have different motives. That's why it's called a haituki bhakti. A haituki means without cause. In this case, without reason or without material motive. Without material motive, but not without motive. We have to have a motive. Our motive is that the ideal motive is very simple, to please Krishna. You see? And by embracing that motive, everything else comes. Your own ananda comes, your liberation from this world comes, even your material prosperity can come. Krishna is going to give you enough, you know. If you're actually developing affection for him, he pours his largesse upon you. You have what you need, you know. So, how to attain that motive? How to cultivate that motive? Because we have all kinds of other things that we're doing that are in the material sphere. So that's the art and the science of bhakti. First comes some faith. That means that you have to hear some of the philosophy, and it has to strike a chord. This makes perfect sense. And that's why we're all sitting here, because somewhere along the way, well, you may have grown up in the culture, very fortunate soul, born into it. But for most of us, we have to come to it. So that's what all these books are about, is to inspire us to have some faith and to try the process. You know, okay, that sounds right, and I know, you know, somebody who's practicing it, and they have some qualities that it seems to be right, and the main thing is like the whole parampara. Should induce faith. When you read about the lives of great souls like Srila Prabhupada, of course, and forebears, Bhakti Siddhanta, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Gorkishore Das Babaji. We have wonderful biographies. I finally got that hold of that book, Biography of Narottam Das Thakur, by Shitala Devasi. It's quite a wonderful book. I've been reading a little bit. But these like this, what do the Christians have? The Catholics, they have these saints, right? I once read there's a saint practically for every day. They may not be so famous. I remember one saint. It was in Africa somewhere during the early days of Christianity, and he just climbed. He built a big pole and he climbed up there and he just sat up there, like a great yogi. You know, people pulled the food up for him and everything. And I guess he was chanting the Jesus prayer up there. You know the Jesus prayer? Lord Jesus, Son of God, have mercy upon me, a sinner. Have you ever heard of that one before? That's where I first encountered this whole idea of repeating the prayer. There's a book called The Way of a Pilgrim. It was very famous in the 60s. And it's all about this Russian pilgrim who couldn't understand this one passage in the Bible where it said, pray without ceasing. He says, how is that practical? We have so many other things to do. So he went to some priest and he didn't know. He went to another one, didn't know. Then he went to what's called a starets, which we would call a guru, a realized soul. And he says, yes, pray without ceasing. So how do I do it? Okay, so you go home and then here you take this prayer, Lord Jesus, Son of God, have mercy upon me, a sinner. And you repeat it again and again and again for 3 hours. And then every day for the week, and then come back to me. And so he did that, and what was the result? Well, it was a little difficult at first, but then I got used to it. It was very nice, actually. My jaw got a little bit stiff. So, okay, now go and do 6 hours. I said, all right, and he was submissive. That's it, he kept doing it. So after after a while, it became second nature to him. It was going on in his heart, I said, that's what it means. Is that whatever else you're doing, that prayer is part of you. So then by that time he was so purified, he took sannyas. He left, he took a backpack with some bread in it and off he went. And the whole book is about his adventures and how he encountered this person. And that's where I first idea, because the idea of japa, even more than kirtan, is really a leap. Most people think, oh, that's brainwashing, not for me, But that's really what it takes, so that the name is always with you. You're always, And the only way to do that is when you actually reform your life so that you actually are always serving Krishna. If you're actually praying, Krishna gave me in your service, then it would be that, okay, well, everything I do in my life has to be service to Krishna. That's what we're trying to achieve. So that state is one of liberation, of one of transcendence, to always be remembering Krishna at every moment. And that really, when you read the Bhagavatam, this verse from the 5th canto that I've been also citing, where Jada Bharat, he's preaching the Rahugana, this king, and he's just so much wonderful instruction there. And then at the end of one chapter, he describes the importance of giving up bad association and associating with devotees. And then tasmat naro sangha susangha jata gyanasine vivrikna moha. That's half the verse. So he says, therefore, by giving up bad association and running to good association of devotees, one will sharpen the sword of knowledge, by which to cut off all of the illusion. Vivrikna moha. And then, that's not the end of it. Then the process is haring tadiha katana shrutabhyam. Katana means, and shrutabhyam means chanting and hearing, Lord Hari's activities, his lila, his pastimes, his name, form, instructions. That's haring tadiha. Here you have the word iha again, as in iha yasihire bhakta. Means activities. Hearing and chanting, absorbing the mind. What's the result? Labdha smriti. Now where do you do that? In the association of devotees. Where do you stop that? Hearing and chanting of Krishna's lila and pastimes? Amongst the non-devotees. Because they're very eager to speak about something else. There's a whole lot of hearing and chanting going on that has nothing to do with Krishna. So we have to choose the association so that we're always hearing and able to chant, these and remember. So that's the last line. The result of all this, giving up bad association, getting good association, so that one can always hear and chant the name, form, qualities, pastimes, and instructions of Krishna. That's what we're doing, right? then the result is labdha smriti. Labdha smriti has two meanings. It basically means to regain your memory. That's what Prabhupada says. You regain your memory of Krishna that we lost when we left the spiritual world. It's all in there, deep buried, you know. And Vishwanath Chakravarti says, gaining labdha smriti means you gain a constant remembrance of Krishna's lotus feet, of Krishna. Is it back to that? And then what? Yat yati padam, and then one nicely and very quickly goes back home, back to Godhead. And in the purport, Prabhupada's little purpose said, this is the purpose of ISKCON. To provide that good association, protect you from bad association, and a context in which you can hear and chant, worship the deity, you know, and all that stuff. That's what this is all about. So that's what we're doing now. The whole Bhagavatam is the subject matter for the hearing and chanting, allowing us to absorb our mind in Krishna and to deepen our faith, as it is said in one more verse which I'll chant. How's it go? No. Satam prasangan mamavirya. This word sung again. Satam prasangan mamavirya sambido bhavanti ritkana rasayana kata. Tadjoshanarasu apabhagavatmani shraddha ratir bhaktaranukramishati. Basically it means that in the association of devotees, this is Kapila Dev, Krishna speaking, one will hear my powerful glories, mamavirya sambido, discussed. And that discussion, that sound vibration is the life-giving elixir for the ear and the mind and the heart. Bhavanti rit karna, rit is the heart, karna is the ear, rasayana. Rasayana is a magic elixir that brings you back to life. And by following this process, this process of liberation, apabhagavatmani, this path of liberation, one quickly develops faith and attraction, and ultimately pure devotion. Shraddha rati bhakti, step by step, by purification process. This is a central verse for our understanding. So that's what we're doing here by hearing this wonderful pastime of Prithu, and Prabhupada's purports describing the benefits, you know, of pure devotion, transcending these modes of nature, and coming to this point of equipoise and Brahmabhuta, when you're always full of bliss and free of hankering, lamenting, and everything else. Bad. So we want to stay on the good side. Okay, any discussion on these points? We've gone a little bit over time. I don't like to go too far over time. Okay, so we'll end on a very happy note. How about the poetic translation of that verse? Parahapidam. With lovely peacock plume upon his head, and fragrant flower placed upon each ear, he enters Braja's woods with graceful tread, a handsome dancing actor without peer. His golden yellow raiment brightly glows, his splendid garland reaches to his knees, and from his luscious lips the nectar flows, and fills his flute with charming melodies. As Krishna thus begins his blissful day, with cowherd friends who sing his glory sweet, he beautifies Vrindavan's forest way, with fine impressions of his lotus feet. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.